Hey gang, I'm in Spring, Texas, home of Nauck's Vintage Records, the Nauck's Vintage Record Auction, and 78rpm.com. Now, full disclosure, I used to work here. I was the record manager here for, I believe, 17 auctions. Now, something to keep in mind, just because I used to work here, during the auction, my bids, as well as the bids of all the employees, count the same as everybody else's. We didn't have any secret sauce or anything like that that let us get records that we normally wouldn't get in auctions. However, I did learn some tricks of the trade that will help you win records in this auction. And I'm going to share a few of them with you today. Thanks for joining us on the 78rpm channel. Hello, and welcome to the 78rpm channel. Whether you're new to 78s or an advanced collector, this is your source for information, research, and music about 78rpm records, cylinders, and radio transcriptions. Hey gang, first things first, I left Houston, the home of Nauck's Vintage Records, last year, and I am in absolutely no way being compensated for any of this. But the point of this channel is to share as much information as I can about the 78rpm hobby. What can I share with you that will help you win items in this auction? Number one is that this catalog is really cool, but the PDF file is even better. Go online, go to 78rpm.com and download the PDF file of this catalog. Why? Because as cool as these are, and trust me, people collect them. People will bid and occasionally buy items in our auction just so they continue to be on our catalog list. But the PDF file is searchable. You hit Control F, which I think stands for find, and you can type in a phrase and it will search this entire catalog in a fraction of a second to find the items you're looking for. Just a quick for instance, Bing Crosby. If you go to this catalog and go into the personality section, and Bing is a personality, and go to the C's, you will find the Crosby records, the Bing Crosby records. But what you might miss out on is the Connie Boswell with Bing Crosby records. You're not going to find that if you just go to the C's and the personality. However, if you type in Bing Crosby into the PDF search, it will pull up everything. So the Connie Boswell with Bing Crosby will show up. More importantly, if you're a collector of rare and obscure things, those recordings that were made live on the air of Bing Crosby doing radio shows, those are going to show up in the instantaneous section. You may not have seen those. Even better, Philco Radio Time may show up because Bing Crosby was on that. Examples of the Kraft Music Hall radio program in the 16-inch transcription disc section may show up. You will miss all of those if you're a Bing Crosby collector and you only look at the personality section. So go online, download the PDF file and use it to search, and you will find vastly more examples of the artists you're looking for in this catalog. We moved locations just a little bit, maybe, 4 feet to the right, and this is tip number 2. Use the electronic bid sheet online. There is a reason that the back of this catalog contains a printed bid sheet for people to mail in. It's because grouchy old people like me like to write things down and send them the slowest possible method through the Postal Service. There is a fax machine number on the cover of the catalog for people who like to fax their bids in. You know, the young whippersnappers. There is also an email where you can submit bids via email. But the online bid sheet at 78rpm.com, the way to go. And there are a variety of reasons for this. First of all, it's the most accurate. It immediately shows you the item that you say you're bidding on, so you can check and make sure you're bidding on what you think you are. And then once you're done and you submit those bids, it goes directly into the computer. All of the other methods, the sending it via mail, fax machine, email, those require somebody to take that information, then digitize it, get it into the computer, then it goes into the giant magic computer that sorts out bids. You've added a couple of steps there where errors can occur, and unfortunately they do. Another reason why you might want to use the online bid sheet is, and trust me, the mail just arrived. They got about 20 of these paper bid sheets that were sent through the mail, and I guarantee you the handwriting on them is awful. Nobody knows how to write anymore. And so our inability to decipher scrawl often leads to errors, and that leads to problems down the line. Unfortunately, those problems don't usually show up until the auction is over. Congratulations, you just won lot 1860. Unfortunately, according to what you think your handwriting looks like, you think you bid on 1350. And now you have just picked up a Nellie Melba record when you thought you had been bidding on some rare, fancy ethnic record that you would never ever see again, and that mistake was made. Use the online bid sheet. It will help prevent mistakes that make you think you've won a record you've always wanted, only to find out that we couldn't decipher your handwriting and you've now won something you don't care about. We moved a little farther down the room, just trying to give you a tour as we go. It's a really amazing place if you've never had a chance to visit. You should, for a variety of reasons, including one I will tell you at the end of the video, which will probably get your attention. In the meantime, number 3, bidding at the last minute in these auctions is a terrible idea. I realize sniping a record on eBay can seem like a lot of fun, but it's the early bird that gets the worm, so to speak, at 78rpm.com auctions. And that's because all bids basically go into the computer and nobody knows who's winning until the auction is closed. They hit the button, the computer jumbles and sorts all the bids, and then it spits out, this is the bid that wins. There's no way of knowing who's going to win. It's kind of like a sealed bid, so to speak, when you're bidding on something for a government contract. Until all the bids are opened, nobody knows who's going to win. Nobody knows what the high bid is, nothing like that. And so there is no advantage whatsoever of trying to snipe something at the last minute, because that's not the way it works. In fact, waiting to the last minute not only doesn't help, but it can cost you. Let me give you an example. A lot of bidders will basically bid on things at double the minimum bid. So to make it simple, a record with a $3 minimum bid, they'll be like, if it's a $3 minimum, I could win it for $6. And so they'll put $6 on it. Well, what happens is you'll end up with 3, 4, 5 people who all did the same thing. You have multiple bidders who bid $6 on this item. Who wins it? The first bid that is received wins it, not the sniper at the end. That person is always left out. So the best thing to do with 78rpm.com auctions is to go through the catalog, bid, and get your bids in early, because sniping at the last minute only hurts yourself. Number 4, this is where I start to work on some of the inside information that you may not have thought of and most people don't have access to. The first one of those is that you would be shocked how many records in the auction sell for minimum bid. Over the years in the company, I was surprised how many went for minimum. In fact, in every single auction, there are always 1 or 2 discs that for some reason only receive 1 bid, in spite of the fact you're looking at this record going, a lot of people are going to bid a lot of money on that record, and it simply doesn't happen. These catalogs carry between 7,000 and 11,000 items to bid on. And even with thousands of bidders, there are things that will be overlooked. I will give you my best worst story for this scenario. And it involved a V++ condition Ethel Waters Black Swan Blues record. I wanted it. I also figured out that, it's a V++ condition, which that's pretty good condition, especially when you can compare the Nauck Vintage Records grading system with every other grading system out there. It's a really good, clean record for the most part. And I thought to myself, I want it, but a lot of people are going to bid on it. I'm not going to win it, so I did not put a bid on it at all. It ended up selling for $3. Remember that this was a V++ condition record, and a V++ condition record in this auction is going to end up as an E- record on eBay, guarantee you. The moral of this story is, even if you don't think you're going to win something, if there's a record out there you want, put a minimum bid on it, especially if it's a $3 minimum bid, because 90% of the time, 95, 99% of the time, you're not going to win that record with a $3 minimum bid. But sometimes you are. Every now and then something will slip through the cracks and you're going to win a record for $3 or whatever the minimum bid might be that will absolutely blow your mind. It happens every single auction, and it does not hurt, it doesn't affect anything if you put a bid that doesn't win. The number of bids you submit doesn't hurt your chances. In fact, it probably helps them. If you bid the minimum bid on 100 records, you might hope to maybe just get for $3, the $3 minimum bid. Maybe you'll win one or two of them and you'll have an absolute steal for $3. So I encourage everybody, bid the minimum on things you want, even if you don't think you have any chance of winning that item. We move to the library where the acoustics are a little bit different, and I'm about to share tip number 5, but just to give you an idea what this place is like and how much cool stuff there is, I'm sitting underneath an Enrico Caruso signed doodle. If you're not familiar, Enrico Caruso, the opera legend, was a cartoonist and a doodler, and he just liked to draw on things. And sometimes he would sign them, and they had to go somewhere, and this one ended up here. Now back to the list. This is number 5, and based on inside information, just things that I have garnered over the years, this one thing is going to result in somebody winning a record they would not have otherwise won than any other tip I can possibly give you. And it seems simple, but there's logic behind it. Add a penny. I hate to keep bringing this up, but research and data continue to show that most 78 RPM collectors are grouchy old people. And like most grouchy old people, I guess that's me, and most grouchy old people started off going to auctions in person. They were not online auctions, there were no .coms, anything like that. They went to auctions where they held up their hand, they held up a paddle, and the bid went up by certain increments. Those increments were almost always even numbers. Because of that, many people, especially the ones who use the printed, handwritten bid sheet and submit it through the mail, submit their bids in even numbers, in even dollars. That is not a requirement at Nauck's vintage record auctions. If you want to increase your chances of winning a disc, do not bid in even dollar numbers. Add a penny. Instead of bidding $20, bid $20.01, because you would be shocked. I dare say between 2 and 5% of the auction lots in this catalog are going to end up with tied bids. And of course, we mentioned earlier, that winner will be chosen by whose bid arrived first. That could have been remedied if you had bid $5.01 instead of $5, because most people bid in even numbers. If you add that penny, you are going to separate yourself from 2, 3, or 4 other people who seemingly are going to bid the same amount you will. I dare say I have won over 100 records over the last 20 years based simply on adding a penny to my bid, where I won a record for $25.01 where there were other bids for $25. Pro tip, add a penny. Okay, now we're back in the archive section of this building, and records back here, especially on this shelf here, this row. These are amazingly high-grade, often dealer stock copies of some incredibly rare and valuable records, and this is an amazing place from which they draw some of the really high-end items for their catalogs. Just to give you an example, I have not moved any of these. This is literally what's here, and I was taking a peek on this shelf, and this is what I came up with. So I'm going to show you this. We have 2 E-condition Blind Willie McTells and a mint minus condition Blind Willie McTell. I just decided to put that back. The E-condition Charlie Patton, the M minus Blind Willie McTells, stuff like that. It's the kind of thing that resides in this section. And the reason I bring this up is because I want to talk about the people who bid on those records. High-end collectors who bid on high-end records like that scare people away. They think to themselves, you know what? If so-and-so who can bid $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 on that Charlie Patton record are in the auction, there's no way I'm going to win anything. The people who bid on those records probably don't want the records you want at this stage in your collection. And so if you're looking for something that sold more than a couple of thousand copies, then you don't have to compete against people who are bidding on those records to get the records you want. And so don't let that scare you off. There are a lot of bargains to be had in an auction catalog like this. And so people who bid on records like this already have a dealer stock copy of In the Mood by Glenn Miller if they want it. Artists who performed during the big band era, the pop vocalists of the 1950s. Music like that is great music. I have a lot of it. Advanced collectors have a lot of it, but they generally don't buy it in these auctions because they already have dealer stock and pristine copies of that. So if you're looking for popular records, things like In the Mood, stuff by Bing Crosby, things like that, you can often find them in these catalogs at a very good price. So don't let the big hitters who are bidding for that Black Patty record scare you away. Tip number 7, understanding the defect abbreviations for the defects that occur on these discs will help you find discs that you will find very enjoyable in spite of their problems. The real key to this is knowing which defects bother you and which defects don't. There are collectors out there that any defect will bother them to the point where they will not bid on a record. I'm not that guy, and most people aren't either. If you see a record that has some light scuffs on it, it may be visible, but you might not be able to hear it. In which case, as long as you're just playing the record to enjoy it, there's no reason to let a defect like that bother you. There are defects that will probably be audible. Which of those bother you the most? An example I like to give, lamination cracks and stress grooves. Those are two things that will 100% completely prevent people from bidding on some records. Any type of crack, they will not bid on that record. A stress groove is the same way. They're not going to bid on a record that has a stress groove because it's going to end up having distortion, at least for that short passage on the disc. I don't mind lamination cracks, and the reason being, most lamination cracks are pretty quiet. If you have an ear that filters out little clicks, then it may not bother you at all. Sometimes they're not even audible. If you're one of the people that transfers their 78s digitally, you can remove a click fairly easily with digital technology. Stress grooves, on the other hand, tend to contain groove damage that's not easily fixable even by digital means. And so I tend to shy away from stress grooves, but I don't mind a lamination crack. Some people are the exact opposite. They will not bid on anything with a lamination crack, or any crack for that matter. But the stress groove here or there doesn't bother them because it doesn't really affect the whole record. They're not going to hear it every single rotation. Understand what the defect abbreviations mean for each record, and if you see a record that has a good grade but maybe has a lamination crack, that would not stop me from bidding on it, but it will stop other people, which means you may get this record and they won't. Number 9, we are currently in the auction room. After a catalog comes out, all the records that are in that catalog are taken out of the archives or taken out of wherever they happen to be, and they are moved in here in order. So lot number 1 starts up there, and it goes all the way down to whatever the last lot number in this auction is, and it's down there. And those records reside here because at that point they're very easy to find and locate at the end of the auction when it comes time to put together people's wins. And in the meantime, they just look awesome in here. But it gives me a chance to remind you of something, and this is really a pro tip. It's a strange phenomena that I noticed over my years of being here, and that is the gem quality section. The gem quality section, everything in that section is a high grade record. I think E- is the lowest that is allowed in the gem quality section. So everything in there probably averages E, maybe better, and it goes up obviously to M-. Those records have an $8 minimum bid. And you're thinking, okay, $8 minimum bid, whereas the same record, if it were a little bit lower grade, would be a $3 minimum bid. That's true. But a very strange phenomena that I have seen over the years is that a record in the $3 section will end up being bid up until it's a $15 or $20 record. The same record in the gym quality section with an $8 minimum bid, nobody will bid on it because some people do not look in the gym quality section. The gym quality section is not sorted by artist, it's sorted by label. And so if you don't use the online bid sheet, which we talked about before, it's more difficult to find the artist you're looking for. The gym quality section is a great place to get a super high condition grade copy, and you may pay less for it than you would if it were a lower condition in the general population of records. So keep that in mind, and don't ignore those gym quality records just because the minimum bid is a little bit higher. You might end up with a bargain. We have kind of come full circle because I am back in what used to be my office when I was the manager here. I've got everything I would ever need in order to duplicate or record 78 RPM records. Got the Techniques SP15. We've got the Reca-Cut re-equalizer. We've got the super connector. We've got the Cedar system. We've got the amplifier. We've got everything we need in here. There's an Archaeophone over there, which is a nice little $30,000 gadget to transfer cylinders. And I spent a lot of time in here and I enjoyed most of it. And that's more than most people can say about their jobs. I'm going to wrap it up, gang. I've got to get going here. I got stuff to do. But I wanted to give you some tips on how to win items in Kurt Nauck's 78rpm.com Nauck's Vintage record auctions. And I hope this helps you pick up some discs you've been looking for. Good luck in the auction, in this one and all future auctions. We'll talk to you very soon once I'm back in Tennessee here in a few days. Thanks a lot, 78 RPM channel. We'll talk to you next time.